Daenerys. When the battle was done, Dany rode her silver through the fields of the dead. Her handmaids and the men of her caste came after, smiling and jesting amongst themselves. Dothraki hooves had torn the earth and trampled the rye and lentils into the ground, while our axe and arrows had sown a terrible new crop and watered it with blood. Dying horses lifted their heads and screamed at her as she rode past. Wounded men moaned and prayed. George R.R. moved among them, the mercy men with their heavy axes, taking a harvest of heads from the dead and dying alike. After them would scurry a flock of small girls, pulling arrows from the corpses to fill their buckets. Last of all the dogs would come sniffing, lean and hungry, the feral pack that was never far behind the khalasar. The sheep had been dead longest. There seemed to be thousands of them, black with flies, arrow shafts bristling from each carcass. Khal Ogo's riders had done that, Dany knew. No man of Drogo's khalasar would be such a fool as to waste his arrows on sheep when there were shepherds yet to kill. The town was afire, black plumes of smoke, roiling and tumbling as they rode into a hard blue sky. Beneath broken walls of dry mud, riders galloped back and forth, swinging their long whips as they herded the survivors from the smoking rubble. The women and children of Ogo's khalasar walked with a sullen pride. Even in defeat and bondage, they were slaves now, but they seemed not to fear it. It was different with the townsfolk. Dany pitied them. She remembered what terror felt like. Mothers stumbled along with blank dead faces, pulling sobbing children by the hand. There were only a few men among them, cripples and cowards and grandfathers. Ser Jorah said the people of this country named themselves the Lazarene, but the Dothraki called them Haeshraki, the Lamb Men. Once Dany might have taken them for Dothraki, for they had the same copper skin and almond-shaped eyes. Now they looked alien to her, squat and flat-faced, their black hair cropped unnaturally short. They were herders of sheep and eaters of vegetables, and Khal Drogo said they belonged south of the river Ben. The grass of the Dothraki sea was not meant for sheep. Dany saw one boy bolt and run for the river. A rider cut him off and turned him, and the others boxed him in, cracking their whips in his face, running him this way and that. One galloped behind him, lashing him across the buttocks until his thighs ran red with blood. Another snared his ankle with a lash and sent him sprawling. Finally, when the boy could only crawl, they grew bored of the sport and put an arrow through his back. Ser Jorah met her outside the shattered gate. He wore a dark green surcoat over his mail. His gauntlets, greaves, and great helm were dark grey steel. The Dothraki had mocked him for a coward when he donned his armour, but the knight had spit insults right back in their teeth, tempers had flared, longsword had clashed with arak, and the rider whose taunts had been loudest had been left behind to bleed to death. Ser Jorah lifted the visor of his flat-topped great helm as he rode up. "Your lord husband awaits you within the town." Drogo took no harm. "A few cuts," Ser Jorah answered. "Nothing of consequence. He slew 2 Khals this day. Khal Ogo first, and then the son Fogo, who became Khal when Ogo fell. His blood riders cut the bells from their hair, and now Khal Drogo's every step rings louder than before." Ogo and his son had shared the high bench with her lord husband at the naming feast where Viserys had been crowned, but that was in Vaes Dothrak, beneath the Mother of Mountains, where every rider was a brother and all quarrels were put aside. It was different out in the grass. Ogo's khalasar had been attacking the town when Khal Drogo caught him. She wondered what the Lamb Men thought when they first saw the dust of their horses atop those cracked mud walls. Perhaps a few, the younger and more foolish who still believed that the gods heard the prayers of desperate men, took it for deliverance. Across the road, a girl no older than Dany was sobbing in a high, thin voice as a rider shoved her over a pile of corpses, face down, and thrust himself inside her. Other riders dismounted to take their turns. This was the sort of deliverance the Dothraki brought the Lamb Men. "I am the blood of the dragon," Daenerys Targaryen reminded herself as she turned her face away. She pressed her lips together and hardened her heart and rode toward the gate. "Most of Ogo's riders fled," Ser Jorah was saying. "Still, there may be as many as 10,000 captives." Slaves, Dany thought. Khal Drogo would drive them downriver to one of the towns on Slaver's Bay. She wanted to cry, but she told herself that she must be strong. This is war. This is what it looks like. This is the price of the Iron Throne. I've told the Cal we ought to make for Marine, Sir Jorah said. They'll pay a better price than what he'd get from a slaving caravan. Illyrio writes that they had a plague last year, so the brothels are paying double for healthy young girls and triple for boys under 10. If enough children survive the journey, the gold will buy us all the ships we need and hire men to sail them. Behind them, the girl being raped made a heart-rending sound, a long throbbing wail that went on and on. Dany's hand clenched hard round the reins, and she turned Silver's head. "Make them stop," she commanded Sir Jorah. "Khaleesi?" The knight sounded perplexed. "You heard my words," she said. "Stop them." She spoke to her Khas in the harsh accents of the Dothraki. "Jogo, Quarrel, you will aid Sir Jorah. I want no rape." The warriors exchanged a baffled look. Jorah Mormont spurred his horse closer. "Princess," he said, "you have a gentle heart, but you do not understand. This is how it's always been. Those men have shed blood for the cow. Now they claim their reward." Across the road the girl was still crying, her high singing tongue strange to Dany's ears. The first man was done with her now, and a second had taken his place. "She is a lamb girl," Quarro said in Dothraki. "She is nothing, Khaleesi. The riders do her honour. The lamb men lay with sheep. It is known." "It is known," her handmaid Eerie echoed. "It is known," agreed Jogo, astride the tall grey stallion that Drogo had given him. "If her wailing offends your ears, Khaleesi, Jogo will bring you her tongue." He drew his arak. "I will not have her harmed," Dany said. "I claim her. Do as I command you, or Khal Drogo will know the reason why." "Aye, Khaleesi," Jogo replied, kicking his horse. Quarro and the others followed his lead, the bells in their hair chiming. "Go with them," she commanded Sir Jorah. "As you command." The knight gave her a curious look. "You are your brother's sister, in truth." "Viserys?" She did not understand. "No," he answered. "Rhaegar." He galloped off. Dany heard Jogo shout. The rapers laughed at him. One man shouted back. Jogo's arak flashed, and the man's head went tumbling down his shoulders. Laughter turned to curses as the horsemen reached for weapons, but by then Quarro and Aggo and Rakaro were there. She saw Aggo point across the road to where she sat upon her silver. The riders looked at her with cold black eyes. One spat. The others scattered to their mounts, muttering. All the while the man atop the lamb girl continued to plunge in and out of her, so intent on his pleasure that he seemed unaware of what was going on around him. Sir Jorah dismounted and wrenched him off with a mailed hand. The Dothraki went sprawling in the mud, bounced up with a knife in hand, and died with Aggo's arrow through his throat. Mormont pulled the girl off the pile of corpses and wrapped her in his blood-spattered cloak. He led her across the way to Dany. "What do you want done with her?" The girl was trembling. Her eyes wide and vague. Her hair was matted with blood. "Doria, see to her hurts. You do not have a rider's look. Perhaps she will not fear you. The rest with me." She urged the silver through the broken wooden gate. It was worse inside the town. Many of the houses were afire, and the Jaqaran had been about their grisly work. Headless corpses filled the narrow, twisty lanes. They passed other women being raped. Every time, Dany reined up, sent her cars to make an end of it, and claimed the victim as slave. One of them, a thick-bodied, flat-nosed woman of 40 years, blessed Dany haltingly in the common tongue, but from the others she only got flat, black stares. They were suspicious of her, she realized with sadness, afraid that she'd saved them for some worse fate. "You cannot claim them all, child," Sir Jorah said the fourth time they stopped, while the warriors of her caste herded her new slaves behind her. "I am Khaleesi, heir to the 7 kingdoms, the blood of the dragon," Dany reminded him. "It is not for you to tell me what I cannot do." Across the city a building collapsed in a great gout of fire and smoke, and she heard distant screams and the wailing of frightened children. They found Khal Drogo seated before a square windowless temple with thick mud walls and a bulbous dome like some immense brown onion. Beside him was a pile of heads taller than he was. One of the short arrows of the lamb men stuck through the meat of his upper arm, and blood covered the left side of his bare chest like a splash of paint. His 3 blood riders were with him. Jiqui helped Dany dismount. She'd grown clumsy as her belly grew larger and heavier. She knelt before her cowl. "My son and stars is wounded." The arak cut was wide but shallow. His left nipple was gone, and a flap of bloody flesh and skin dangled from his chest like a wet rag. "Is scratch, boon of life, from a rack of 1 blood rider of Khal Ogo," Khal Drogo said in the common tongue. "I kill him for it, and Ogo too." He turned his head, the bells in his braids ringing softly. "Is Ogo you hear, and Fogo his Kalaka, who was Khal when I slew him?"
"No man can stand before the son of my life," Dany said, "the father of the stallion who mounts the world."
A mounted warrior rode up and vaulted from his saddle. He spoke to Hago, a stream of angry Dothraki too fast for Dany to understand. The huge blood rider gave her a heavy look before he turned to his Khal. "This one is Mago, who rides in the cars of Kaljoko. He says the Khaleesi has taken his spoils, a daughter of the lambs who was his to mount." Khal Drogo's face was still and hard, but his black eyes were curious as they went to Dany. "Tell me the truth of this, moon of my life," he commanded in Dothraki. Dany told him what she'd done, in his own tongue, so that the Khal would understand her better, her words simple and direct. When she was done, Drogo was frowning. "This is the way of war. These women are slaves now, to do with as we please."
"It pleases me to keep them safe,"
Dany said, wondering if she dared too much.
"If your warriors would mount these women, let them take them gently and keep them for wives. Give them places in the Khalasar and let them bear you sons."
Kotho was the cruelest of the blood riders. It was he who laughed.
"Does the horse breed with the sheep?"
Something in his tone reminded her of Viserys. Dany turned on him angrily.
"The dragon feeds on horse and sheep alike."
Khal Drogo smiled.
"See how fierce she grows," he said. "It is my son inside her, the stallion who mounts the world, filling her with fire. Ride slowly, Kotho. If the mother does not burn you where you sit, the son will trample you into the mud. And you, Mago, hold your tongue and find another lamb to mount. These belong to my Khaleesi."
He started to reach out a hand to Daenerys, but as he lifted his arm, Drogo grimaced in sudden pain and turned his head. Dany could almost feel his agony. The wounds were worse than Ser Jorah had led her to believe.
"Where are the healers?"
she demanded. The Khalasar had 2 sorts, barren women and eunuch slaves. The herb women dealt in potions and spells, the eunuchs in knife and needle and fire.
"Why do they not attend the Khal?"
"The Khal has sent the hairless men away, Khaleesi," old Kaholo assured her. Dany saw the blood rider had taken a wound himself, a deep gash in his left shoulder.
"Many riders are hurt," Khal Drogo said stubbornly. "Let them be healed first. This arrow is no more than a bite of a fly. This little cut only a new scar to boast of to my son."
Dany could see the muscles in his chest where the skin had been cut away. A trickle of blood ran from the arrow that pierced his arm.
"It is not for Khal Drogo to wait," she proclaimed. "Drogo, seek out these eunuchs and bring them here at once."
"Silver Lady," a woman's voice said behind her. "I can help the great rider with his hurts." Dany turned her head. The speaker was one of the slaves she'd claimed, the heavy flat-nosed woman who had blessed her.
"The Khal needs no help from women who lie with sheep," barked Kotho. "Aggo, cut out her tongue."
Aggo grabbed her hair and pressed a knife to her throat. Dany lifted a hand.
"No, she is mine. Let her speak."
"I meant no wrong, fierce riders." The woman spoke Dothraki well. The robe she wore had once been the lightest and finest of woolens, rich with embroidery, but now they were mud-caked and bloody and ripped. She clutched the torn cloth of her bodice to her heavy breasts. "I have some small skill in the healing arts."
"Who are you?" Dany asked her.
"I am named Miri Maz Dur. I am God's wife to this temple."
"Meji,"
grunted Hago, fingering his arak. His look was dark. Dany remembered the word from a terrifying story that Jiqui had told her one night by the cook fire. A magi was a woman who lay with demons and practiced the blackest of sorceries, a vile thing, evil and soulless, who came to men in the dark of night and sucked life and strength from their bodies. "I am a healer," Mirri Maz Duur said.
"Healer of sheeps,"
sneered Kotho.
"Blood of my blood. I said kill this magi and wait for the hairless men."
Dany ignored the Blood Rider's outburst. This old, homely, thick-bodied woman did not look like a magi to her. "Where did you learn your healing, Mirri Maz Duur?" "My mother was a god's wife before me, and taught me all the songs and spells most pleasing to the great shepherd, and how to make the sacred smokes and ointments from leaf and root and berry. When I was younger and more fair, I went in caravan to Ashai by the shadow, to learn from their mages. Ships from many lands come to Ashai, so I lingered long to study the healing ways of distant people. A moonsinger of the Jogos Nai gifted me with her birthing songs. A woman of your own riding people taught me the magics of grass and corn and horse, and a maester from the Sunset Lands opened a body for me and showed me all the secrets that hide beneath the skin." Ser Jorah Mormont spoke up.
"A maester?"
"Marwen, he named himself," the woman replied in the common tongue. "From the sea, beyond the sea, the 7 lands, he said, Sunset Lands, where men are iron and dragons rule. He taught me this speech."
"A maester in Ashai," Ser Jorah mused. "Tell me, god's wife, what did this Marwen wear about his neck?"
"A chain so tight it was like to choke him, Iron Lord, with links of many metals." The knight looked at Dany.
"Only a man trained in the citadel of Old Town wears such a chain," he said, "and such men do know much about healing."
"Why would you want to help my cow?" "All men are one flock, or so we are taught," said Mirri Maz Duur. "The great shepherd sent me to earth to heal his lambs, wherever I might find them." Kotho gave her a stinging slap.
"We are no sheep, Meji."
"Stop it," Dany said angrily. "She is mine. I will not have her harmed." Khal Drogo grunted.
"The arrow must come out, Kotho."
"Yes, great rider," Mirri Maz Duur answered, touching her bruised face. "And your breast must be washed and sewn, lest the wound fester."
"Do it then,"
Khal Drogo commanded. "Great rider," the woman said, "my tools and potions are inside the god's house, where the healing powers are strongest."
"I will carry you, blood of my blood,"
Hago offered. Khal Drogo waved him away.
"I need no man's help,"
he said in a voice proud and hard. He stood unaided, towering over them all. A fresh wave of blood ran down his breast from where Ogo's arak had cut off his nipple. Dany moved quickly to his side. "I am no man," she whispered. "You may lean on me." Drogo put a huge hand on her shoulder. She took some of his weight as they walked toward the great mud temple. The 3 blood riders followed. Dany commanded Ser Jorah and the warriors of her Khaz to guard the entrance and make certain that no one set the building afire while they were still inside. They passed through a series of anterooms into the high central chamber under the onion. Faint light shone through the hidden windows above. A few torches burnt smokily from the censers on the walls. Sheepskins were scattered across the mud floor. "There," Mirri Maz Duur said, pointing to the altar, a massive blue-veined stone carved with images of shepherds and their flocks. Khal Drogo lay upon it. The old woman drew out a handful of dried leaves, set it into a brazier, filling the chamber with fragrant smoke. "Best if you wait outside," she said.
"We are blood of his blood," Kaholo said. "Here we wait."
Kotho stepped close to Mirri Maz Duur.
"Know this, wife of the Lamb God. Harm the Khal and you will suffer the same."
He drew his skinning knife and showed her the blade. "She will do no harm." Dany felt she could trust this old plain-faced woman with her flat nose. She had saved her from the hard hands of her rapers, after all. "If you must stay, then help," Mirri told the Blood Riders. "The Great Rider is too strong for me. Hold him still while I draw the arrow from his flesh." She let the rags of her gown fall to her waist as she opened a carved chest and busied herself with bottles and boxes, knives and needles. When she was ready, she broke off the barbed arrowhead and pulled out the shaft, chanting in the sing-song tongue of the Lazarene. She heated a flagon of wine to boiling on the brazier and poured it over his wounds. Khal Drogo cursed her, but he did not move. She bound the arrow wound with a plaster of wet leaves and turned to the gash on his breast, smearing it with a pale green paste before she pulled the flap of skin back into place. The Khal ground his teeth together and swallowed a scream. The god's wife took out a silver needle and a bobbin of silk thread and began to close the flesh. When she was done, she painted the skin with red ointment, covered it with more leaves, and bound the breast in a ragged piece of lambskin. "You must say the prayers I give you and keep the lambskin in place for 10 days and 10 nights, she said. "There will be fever and itching and a great scar when the healing is done." Khal Drogo sat, bells ringing. "I sing of my scars, sheep woman." He flexed his arm and scowled. "Drink neither wine nor milk of the poppy," she cautioned him. "Pain you will have, but you must keep your body strong to fight the poison spirits." "I am Khal," Drogo said. "I spit on pain and drink what I like. Koholo, bring my vest." The older man hastened off. "Before," Dany said to the ugly Lazarene woman, "I heard you speak of birthing songs." "I know every secret of the bloody bed, Silver Lady, nor have I ever lost a babe," Mirri Maz Dur replied. "My time is near," Dany said. "I would have you attend me when he comes, if you would." Khal Drogo laughed. "Moon of my life, you do not need to ask a slave, you tell her. She will do as you command." He jumped down from the altar. "Come, my blood, the stallions call. This place is ashes. It is time to ride." Hago followed the Khal from the temple, but Kotho lingered long enough to favour Mirri Maz Dur with a stare. "Remember, Meiji, as the Khal fares, so do you." "As you say, Rider," the woman answered him, gathering up her jars and bottles. "The great shepherd guards the flock."
This chapter was not all sunshines and rainbows.
That is a massive understatement.
It's pretty horrific.
It was awful. It was depressing and horrifying, and Martin pretty much shoves the horror of war right into the reader's face with this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
it
think
sucks.
this showed exactly what Varys was talking about when it's the poor people who suffer.
Yeah.
And it's not even in Westeros.
Yeah.
So it's not even because of the Game of Thrones. This was just because people like sheep more than horses.
They seemed pretty peaceful.
How dare you eat our grass, you sheep.
The sheep people.
Apparently sheep diddlers.
I guess so, but I mean, that's probably what they say about the Dothraki behind their back, so...
They love their horses.
They love their horses.
They mount their horses in more than one way, let me tell you.
Right, that's what I'm saying. They probably talk mad shit about the Dothraki. Mm-hmm. They all do it.
But good on Dany for saving a few people.
Yeah, she was just like, yeah, no, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
I am not going to sit by and let this shit go down. Because Dany is awesome.
Yeah.
She feels for people, and she's like, we do not need to be raping people.
And I love
Drogo's
reaction. You would think, like, he's a Dothraki. He might have something to say, you know, like,
right.
Oh, that's not how we do this.
Yeah.
Dany, come on, you're embarrassing me in front of my friends.
Right.
But he was just like, better watch out. Otherwise, she might kill you.
Yeah. His total reaction was just, ooh, look at how feisty my Biba is.
Mm-hmm.
Not trying to calm her down, change her mind, just like, you guys, just watch. She's carrying the stallion that mounts the world. She's feisty.
Yeah. I think it's...
Maybe if she wasn't pregnant, his reaction would be a little different.
Do you think so?
Maybe. Because not only is she pregnant, but she is pregnant with the prophesied chosen child.
Yeah. I think it has some to do with it, but even before that, like, he was learning the common tongue before.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, I think he's very open-minded.
He is a pretty open-minded dude. His Blood Riders were not having it.
No.
This was just horrible.
The horrors of
war. Just, and the Lamb people seemed to be genuinely like
they're just shepherds, peaceful people,
minding their own business. They were like vegetarian too.
Martin really rammed it home how peaceful they were, and they didn't deserve any of it, and then made sure you knew how gruesome it was.
Yes, because that's I mean, I think those kinds of things should be brutal so that you understand it from the reader's perspective, but Jesus, it's hard to read. But it also just demonstrates where Dany's moral compass is and what she's willing to do, and regardless of risk to her person, because that could have gone very badly.
Yeah.
Because Jorah was like,
Now, see, I think Drogo would have acted more or less the same way. He was probably a little bit more lenient with her because she was pregnant. But I don't think Dany could have gotten away with half the stuff that she did do if she wasn't pregnant with, like, everyone else.
Oh.
She could have gotten away with it with, like, Drogo, but...
Maybe not with the Blood Riders or the other... Yeah, that's true. Don't threaten a pregnant lady.
Yeah,
who's
especially with
prophecy baby.
Cal's baby.
Cal's prophecy baby.
Cal's prophecy baby.
It's a prophecy baby. That makes it even more special.
And they did happen to save a midwife.
They did. They got lucky. She's a midwife and a healer. And in other news, Drogo got his nipple cut off.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, that's something I forgot, because I was thinking of the show. The show, he has, like, a deep gash.
Yeah.
I forgot, like, he, like, got it cut off, and it was just, like, a flap of skin hanging.
Like... Yeah, like, that was gruesome, too. And then she, like, puts the poultice in there, and, like, takes the flap and, like, sews it back up. Like, it's...
That doesn't sound right. That you would, like, put it in and then, like, sew it in there. Like, what's gonna happen to it?
I don't know.
Isn't it gonna, like, rot?
I don't know. Maybe there's, like, she left open a little pocket so you could pull it out and change it.
Ooh, that's even worse.
I don't know. But the point is in the show, it's just like a little cut, and in the book, it's like a legit injury.
Yeah. Maybe even the producers on the show were just like, it's a little too graphic for us.
Well, because Drogo is like, oh, it's nothing, and Dany and Miri Mazdur are both like, we should still do something because it could get infected, and then that would be really bad.
Yeah.
So we don't want it to get infected, but
I wonder how good her sewing skills are. Or is he gonna have, like, mismatched nipples now? Like, is one nipple gonna be down here, the other one's up here, like, looking all weird?
I don't know.
Just random side thought, like...
That's a good question.
After he heals, it's gotta look weird.
Is Dany gonna not want him anymore? I can't look at you anymore. Your nipples aren't symmetrical.
Well, you heard Drogo. He brags about all of his scars.
Yeah. He's very much... The Dothraki are very much...
Scars.
The Dothraki are very much the kind of people who are like, if the more scars you have, the sexier you are.
Mm-hmm.
Bless you're a lady, probably. I don't know. Maybe the women.
Probably.
But that was pretty much the chapter. Like, Dany got to see firsthand what Dothraki war is really like, and she was not about it.
Put an end to that.
She was seemingly okay with, like, the pillaging and the fires and stuff. That didn't seem to bother her as much.
Yeah.
That she was, like, kind of okay with, but I think
part of it is she kind of forced herself, because I think this was a learning curve for her, because you want to go to Westeros and retake your throne, this is going to be a part of it.
This is how you do it.
This is going to happen.
Yep.
And you are going to be the cause of it.
Yep.
Are you prepared to do that? And have that on your conscience?
Yep. Pretty much.
Right now, like, that's just the Dothraki way, you know?
Yeah.
She's just along for the ride, but once they go over there...
And it's her command, and it's her invading, and
all those deaths are on her.
Yep. She can do her best to prevent, like, the rape.
Oh yeah.
That she can certainly get control of that. I like how she does it too, because she's like, nope, you're not going to rape any of these women because they're now my slaves. I'm taking them. They're mine. Hands off. It was like the most diplomatic way she could have done it. It was like the best way she could have done it, and it would have worked, because once she says that they're her slaves, then no one else can touch them.
Exactly.
It's like the best way she could. I mean, they're still technically slaves, which sucks, but at the same time,
she's gonna create her own little like woman army.
Like the fish speakers in God Emperor of Dune.
Yeah.
Maybe. An all
Amazonian.
An all lady army.
Yeah.
But she's doing her best to like protect them, and I gotta love Dany for that.
Yeah, I love.
She's awesome. She's like, no, F this. We're not raping people. We're not doing this. And she's genuinely horrified by what happens. I feel like Viserys probably would have just been like, whatever, it happens.
Oh, she's just a sheep person.
Yeah, I don't think he would have cared.
The dragon doesn't pay attention to sheep.
The dragon eats them.
Exactly. Or in this case, mounts them.
Yeah. That being said, where do we go from here with Dany?
Well,
Dany took some slaves.
She's gonna have her baby pretty soon.
Right? Is she gonna have the baby next time? Like, she's gotta be ready.
Yeah.
She's gotta be almost there.
Like, they're saying she can't really get on and off her horse too well.
Yeah, they have to help her get up and down. Yeah. She's ready.
A large lady.
She's a large lady at this point. Did the Dothraki make maternity pants?
It looks like she's smuggling sheep out of the town.
I'm trying to remember what they're...
Pretty sure the Dothraki, it's just like the loosest fitting clothing ever.
Yeah, probably. Horsehair pants. Jorah was wearing horsehair pants one time.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like.
Oh, that was another thing we can talk about. All the Dothraki laughing at him for putting on the armor.
Oh, yeah.
You pussy, you're putting on armor for sheep people?
How hot must he be in that?
Oh, yeah, Jesus.
He must be sweltering in all that armor. And he has to put it on by himself. He doesn't have... I don't think he has a squire.
No, I don't think so. And even if anyone offered to help, no one would probably know how to.
That's what I mean. He's got to do that all by himself. Oh.
And I don't think anyone else is going to be making fun of him, since the last person bled to death.
Yeah, for real. I think he made his point.
How he ended up bleeding, you know. Sure, just a stumble, bad fall.
Right. But either way,
not Jorah's blade or anything.
I think he made his point.
Yeah.
Armor has its uses. So maybe
does his sword.
Yes. So maybe next time, Dany will have a baby, and it'll be a positive chapter after all this negativity and sadness and destruction.
And Jorah will be complimented on his armor.
Yeah, maybe it'll all go good for Dany next time, because she still ended up doing good, but it was this very...
Dany's gonna have the baby. The midwife is gonna come out with Dany and Drogo behind her and hold her up like Simba.
Him
up like Simba.
The stallion that mounts the world, right? Yeah. It'll be a great time.
Stalinba.
Rhaego, right? That's what his name is?
Rhaego, yep.
Rhaego. That's quite the name. Okay.
Disney's the Stallion King.
The Stallion King. Oh god, does that make Robert like Scar? Like the Scar character? Because he took the throne from them? Because I'm assuming Rhaego would go take Westeros for his mama.
I guess so, yeah.
Ooh. Okay then. I don't like that.
Well, I think you will like this. We get to go and visit Tyrion in the next episode. See how the Lannisters are doing.
I'm down for that.
Their side of the war.
I'm always down to visit the Lannisters. It's always a good time hanging out with the
Especially
Lannisters.
Tyrion.
Heck yeah.
Is he still admiring his father as much as he did?
Or are they
Finally
fighting?
butting
Are
heads.
they butting heads, fighting with each other? We'll see.